Hey Ed, thanks for taking the time today to have a little chat. So, for those of you that don't know Ed, Ed is one of the Strong for Life online coaching clients. He's had an interesting journey and he came to training a little bit later than most. So, this will be interesting to see Ed's thoughts on the whole process. So, Ed, can you just give us a little bit of a background on yourself and what life was like for you before you started training?
Life was good before I started training. It's better now, that's for sure. Uh, I had sort of an off and on relationship with weight training. Did a decent amount in my 20s. I actually worked at a gym in my mid 20s, in the mid 90s. I was the manager of a neighborhood gym. Um, so I would work out then, but I was also in my 20s. So, priorities were more geared towards what was going to be going on at night, on the weekends, etc. Um, and I left there, stopped weight training, always stayed fit. Like I have a very disciplined attitude towards eating, uh, and I can cook. So uh, I've always been a healthy eater, not overindulgent, anything like that. And I tended to just lean sort of towards cardio type things, a lot of walking, um, a little bit of yoga for a while. Um, and then, yeah, years just went on. I would maybe join a gym, work out a little bit, for a couple of months and then stop. Um, and yeah, just sort of continued being like a fit person, but it wasn't enough,
What was
basically.
missing?
Uh, Strength, really.
Mm.
I had a certain amount of endurance, and the same waistline, for two decades, but it, yeah, it came down to strength and sort of as I started to get into my 50s, I was like, I really want the opportunity to see what my potential is, how strong I can get, and how good I can look as well.
All right. So it's a pretty varied background. I mean, definitely having that endurance and cardio sort of baseline is going to help with the recovery, help with your journey. So after, okay, well let's look at what made you decide to take the step to start training, and then how did your life change after you started training with us?
I decided to start training, partly because uh, it was just sort of something, it kept coming up. I want to be stronger. I want to see what I'm capable of. And then also, being in a peer group of other men, where training was something regular in their lives for a number of years, and seeing what their capabilities were, how great they looked, how strong they were, when you're, and it's sort of like, well, I want to be as good as them. I want to be as good as these guys that I have these friendships with.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
I mean, that makes total sense, and that's a beautiful example of the positive power of peer pressure,
yeah.
rising tides and all of that. And so how did life change once you started training consistently with a sort of strength and aesthetic focus?
Well, uh, elevated mood for sure, uh, elevated outlook, because of the sort of, it's like you have, each day that you train, you're accomplishing something. You're starting and you're finishing something, that takes a pretty decent amount of effort if you're doing it right. Um, and my sleep improved pretty drastically. Like I was sleeping deeper at night,
Nice.
waking up feeling better. Uh, and I got stronger pretty rapidly, actually. Um, it took 3 months or so, and you see a big change.
Yeah, right on. And that's right. It doesn't take forever to start seeing changes. That sort of quality of life change happens pretty rapidly. And a lot of people do say things like, oh, my energy is so much better. Oh, I'm sleeping so much better, which is so important to your health across the board. So, what, if you have one, what has been your favorite part of the whole process?
My favorite part of the whole process.
Favorite.
There's probably more than one favorite part.
All right, pick a couple.
It's um, uh, looking so much better, actually. Like the way,
Nice.
like okay, my my waistline has actually shrunk a little bit, but my pants have gotten tighter, and shirts that sort of were loose and kind of like hung on me a little bit are snug and look good. It's a snug shirt that looks good. So really my favorite part actually is like, oh, I'm 53 and I feel and that like I look pretty great. So that flex moment in the mirror after the workout. And then my other
Awesome.
favorite my other favorite thing is the sort of client coach relationship. Because even though you have to work, you have to do hard work, and there's a certain amount of accountability. It's like you don't want to look like a big dope, it's like, oh, well, you're my coach, and I didn't do what you said to do, what you set up for me to do. But there's an aspect to the relationship where there is like, it's like, okay, I'm a client, but also I want the esteem of the coach.
Fair enough.
Yeah, you want a little gold star, so you're gonna, so it, so it's like I'm doing it for me, but then part of it becomes, you're doing it for the coach as well. And even though you have to do hard work, there's a certain amount of ease that comes with, be honest about what's happening, but just follow these instructions, follow these macros, follow this workout. I don't have to think. I don't have to wonder, am I doing the right thing? Is this the right, is this the right program? Because I know for a fact that what you're giving to me is just do it.
Yeah,
Because a lot of guys spend
that's ideal.
a lot of guys spend a whole bunch of time in like sort of rabbit holes of all
Mm.
these different programs and techniques and styles and theories, and like seem to never end up at the gym, but they're spending an awful lot of time trying to figure out what their program should be.
Yeah. Yeah, and for busy adults, like having that ability to just offload that thinking process and be like, if I just follow these steps, I'm going to get where I want to be, is a very useful and freeing aspect of coaching for sure. All right, cool. It's a couple favorites there. Looking better, fitting your clothes better is always a nice feeling, and I think that also is a big part of how you portray yourself to the world. Like when you feel better, you also end up looking better because of how you move with more confidence, which is a
Yeah.
really neat thing to see in clients. Okay, so you come from an interesting background. You're coming into it a little bit later than a lot of folks, uh, but I find that more and more common these days. But it's just great to see as long as people are starting the journey. So if you ran into another person who has a similar sort of background, or let's say they're a similar age to you, and they've put off doing some dedicated training, mostly because of paralysis by analysis. They don't know what to do. Maybe they get caught in wormholes, aren't sure which guru to listen to, aren't sure how to eat. What advice would you give them? How should they go about finding the path for them?
Well, I I mean, it might be a good idea to ask them, like, well, being able to enjoy something sort of matters. So it's like, okay, well, what do you have experience?
For
Do
sure.
you enjoy, do you enjoy running? Have you ever lifted weights? Did you like it when you did it? What would be holding you back from that? But I mean, I'd probably tell them go to Instagram and check out Strong for Life coaching. I would probably
It's a good
definitely.
answer.
Yeah. Because I could be like, well, look at me.
Yeah.
Look where I am, and I would definitely uh, encourage. I mean, I would tell them, well, it's really good to have a coach, but the tricky thing is finding somebody legit. But I happen to know of somebody legit, so
Yeah. Fair.
that part is pretty easy. But I mean, a lot of people, especially when people get older, I mean, they do get set in certain habits, and maybe it's harder to change. But
Hmm.
there's just a lot of misconceptions about the gym, that especially people that are intimidated by it. And it is not like, I mean, maybe it depends on where you're going, but I would definitely tell them, like, just go. People are supportive. And the most supportive people in the gym are going
Absolutely.
to be the most jacked up, like, great looking dudes in the gym are always going to be super cool, really encouraging. Um, and they have energy, that you can
Yeah.
sort of like tap into when you're there. But yeah, no one's going to be like making fun of you or calling you old man, or I mean, it's possible, but
Yeah, it's pretty unlikely. Like you said, I think the gym is ultimately a very positive place.
yeah. And there's all sorts of different kinds of people at the gym also. It's like a surprising, it's sort of like you see all different kinds of people, all walks of life, all different kinds of body shapes, all different levels of skill.
Yeah, for sure.
I would
Yeah,
definitely tell them, like, just don't be scared of it. Just don't stop being, yeah, do it.
do it. Just do it. And like what you talked about too, that client coach relationship is really important. Like obviously we get along really well, doesn't mean everyone's going to get along with me. It doesn't really matter where you go, but do your research, make sure you vibe with that person because that's key. If you don't like your coach, you're not going to do anything they say.
Yeah, yeah, that's
All
true.
right, Ed, I've got one more question for you. It's
Yeah.
open-ended. What wisdom would you share to anybody who is new to this journey? What wisdom have you picked up that if you were, you know, starting up a year ago again and you're like, young Ed, this is what you need to know? What wisdom would you pass on?
Yeah, that's one of those questions that can have like 20 answers. Uh, I mean, I would, what wisdom about the process?
Anything, whatever comes to your mind first. There's a lot.
Yeah. Uh, I mean, of course, the wisdom would be like, make sure you work out, but
Keep it
that's
simple.
yeah. I mean, that you have to be patient. You have to be patient with the process, and you
Mhm.
have to learn, and this can spill over into many areas of life. You have to learn to see what a small win is and how small wins lead to bigger wins. Because you're gonna look in the mirror, and for a while you're gonna keep seeing the same person from before you started training, but it's kind of an illusion. So it's sort of like you have to be patient, you have to understand there's small wins, and you might not be seeing things clearly. So take pictures.
Great advice.
Pictures of yourself, take measurements, things, yeah, like a year, even a year of being consistent, you might see just a half an inch of growth in a certain part of your body, like your chest or your biceps. But take pictures, because you can then see that that's actually a lot. Um, but yeah, learn to appreciate small wins.
Yeah, absolutely great advice because it's not a fast process. It looks fast when you look back on it. You go, wow, look how much has changed in 3 months, 6 months, a year. But in the moment, you just see the same person in the mirror. So that's very, very valuable for people to hear, I think, Ed. So thank you very much for taking the time to chat with me today. Really appreciate it. And I know that what you said is going to resonate with a lot of people.
Great. Thanks.
Thank you.